My eldest sister met the crown prince in secret trysts time and again, and she always brought me along as a decoy to cover up their affair. One day, word leaked out. Palace attendants rushed to the rendezvous. Yet they only caught hold of me. The empress issued an imperial marriage edict at once. If you two are so deeply in love, why hide and sneak about? And so I was wed into the eastern palace. The crown prince blamed all that had happened on me, treating me cruelly and harshly. Even in private intimacy, he would pin my wrists down, his gaze dark and brooding, forcing me to call him brother-in-law. Reborn on the very day my eldest sister invited me for an outing to admire spring scenery. I buried my face deep under the quilt and mumbled muffledly, "I'm not going." My elder sister froze at my words. "Why not?" She pressed her lips together, hesitation lacing her tone. I already made an arrangement with him. The man she spoke of was Rongheng, the heir apparent to the throne, gentle, poised, and famously indifferent to women in public eyes. No one would have guessed he had been carrying on a clandestine affair with the Marquis Manor's eldest young lady for years, and I was their constant cover. When Rongheng talked with my sister, I would sit nearby nibbling pastries. When he played the zither for her, I flew a kite outside the courtyard wall. Whenever our mother asked where we had gone, my sister would pinch my palm lightly, her expression calm and unruffled as she replied, "Jiaoning is lively and restless. Bored stiff staying cooped up at home." I just took her out to stretch her legs. She knew our mother's suspicions, and cherished her own reputation above all else. It was why, during an excursion on a hillside outside the capital one rainy day, a sudden downpour struck. When palace servants arrived to collect Rongheng, she fled without a single backward glance, too afraid to linger a moment longer, abandoning me entirely. I stumbled after her in panic, yet the rain-slick stone steps were treacherous. My foot slipped, and I teetered on the verge of a fall. Rongheng stretched out a hand and steadied me. Careful, an umbrella sheltered me overhead, and an old nanny smiled up at me. "We've found you at last. So the lady the prince has been meeting in secret all along is the second young lady of the Marquis Manor." His face turned icy cold, and he wrenched his hand free from mine. What a cruel twist of fate. The man who ought to have become my brother-in-law ended up my husband instead. For years afterward, grieving the loss of the woman he loved, Rongheng grew gloomy and vicious. Behind closed doors, he would compel me again and again, overwhelmed with shame, tears spilling down my cheeks. I would whisper the title brother-in-law through my sobs. Only then would he brush damp strands of hair away from my temples, bury his face in the crook of my neck, and murmur in a satisfied, tender drawl, My sister-in-law. The whole world believed the crown prince doted on his crown princess, bound to her by youthful, devoted love. No one knew how tormented and miserable I endured in private. Every time I recalled those moments, my heart trembled, shame washing over me so fiercely I wished the ground would swallow me whole. I covered my face with both hands. "I'm unwell. Either way, I cannot go." My sister reached out to feel my forehead. My fever was genuine, skin burning hot to the touch. "Very well then. I'll stay to look after you and send for the manor physician." Restlessness gnawed at me still. "What about your meeting with him?" She sighed softly. "If you aren't coming with me, I can hardly go see him alone." It was true. Among the sisters in our household, I was her closest confidant, obedient, discreet, and the perfect alibi. She guarded her reputation so fiercely, she would never dare meet Rongheng unchaperoned. I rolled onto my side and closed my eyes, resolved that I would never again tag along to their trysts in this lifetime. I was confined to bed with illness for days on end, while spring rains fell repeatedly, deprived of an excuse to step outside. My elder sister sat on the veranda plucking her zither, its mournful, lingering notes winding through the courtyard. Mother suspected she had fallen ill with lovesickness. "Do you know who your sister's heart belongs to?" She twisted incense sticks between her fingers, stirring the smoke curling from the censer, studying me through the hazy mist. Nothing escaped her notice after all. Still, I lied. "I have no idea." Mother let out a faint chuckle. "Word spreads that the crown prince has a secret beloved. He meets her in secret so carefully that even the empress sent spies to tail him countless times. Yet found nothing. What is there to hide? She sighed. If the girl comes from a fitting family and holds the prince's affection, their marriage would be set in stone. I'm growing old, and I can no longer fathom what troubles young girls these days. I bit my lower lip. I truly did not understand. Quiet, erudite, and reserved, my eldest sister conversed with Rongheng like equals, discussing civil governance and Taoist philosophy. Occasionally she would steer the conversation toward me, complaining I was stubborn and disliked studying, drawing faint laughter from him. Yet she never broached the topic of marriage. On my wedding day to the crown prince, though tears had welled in her eyes, she had spoken sharply to him. You actually married her. Jiaoning is my dearest little sister. From this day onward, Your Highness must never wrong her. Rongheng could not bear to meet her gaze. His eyes fixed on me through my red bridal veil as he quietly agreed. I shall. I suspected she had been utterly heartbroken then. Mother went on speaking. The crown prince has reached a suitable age for marriage. After much thought, the empress plans to host a banquet in a few days to identify his beloved and bestow a royal betrothal decree. In my past life, the empress had already seized me by this point. So such an arrangement had never come to pass. She did not know she had targeted the wrong woman. That mistake condemned my sister to lifelong spinsterhood. While Rongheng tormented and mistreated me year after year, Mother watched my shifting expression. I'd originally thought it would be good for you both to attend and broaden your horizons. But seeing your sister is clearly already attached to someone, I'll decline the invitation on her behalf. She turned to step outside, and I hurried after her. Do not turn it down for her sake. She glanced back, a knowing look crossing her face. I drew a deep breath and added quickly, decline it for me instead. She stared in surprise. You. She could not comprehend it. The two were clearly deeply enamored. Already entangled in a secret affair, why would I run from it? I paid no mind to her confusion. In this life, I would never marry Rongheng. When the banquet invitation arrived, I realized Mother's earlier words had only been a ploy to draw out my sister's true feelings. The empress was determined to uncover the identity of the crown prince's lover, leaving no room for anyone to refuse attendance. By the Tay Pond, lush grass carpeted the bank. Sky and water blending into one clear, luminous expanse. This was my first encounter with Rongheng in this new life. Dressed in pale moonwhite and formal robes, his hair bound with a jade crown, he possessed refined, handsome features, his bearing calm and aloof. No one could have foreseen how obsessive and unhinged he would become once he lost the woman he thought he loved. My sister squeezed my hand tight, her palms damp with nervous sweat. Everyone says the empress has uncovered the truth about the crown prince's secret romance. Do you think she will think me improper? She will not. I shook my head gently. Her Majesty is benevolent. She will not look down on you over this. She exhaled heavily, yet her tension did not ease. A young man stood beside Rongheng, clad in a cyan robe with his hair tied simply back. Exceptionally striking and handsome, he appeared listless, indifferent to the commotion around them until he spotted me, straightening at once to smooth out every wrinkle in his immaculate sleeves. My sister eyed him curiously. Who is he? Rongheng's voice remained flat and unemotional. My cousin, the Marquis Heir Shuiyang. You value your reputation too much to meet me alone, so it is wise to bring chaperones. If anything were to go wrong, my sister smiled faintly. Your Highness is far too cautious. With Jiaoning by my side all these years, we never once drew suspicion. A heavy gaze settled on the top of my head. No suspicion. Rongheng let out a mocking, rare laugh. You are innocent and sincere, blind to how carefully some people have plotted for a very long time. All color drained from my face in an instant. He had also been reborn. In my past life, Rongheng had humiliated me countless times, refusing to believe my stumble on the stone steps had been an accident. Is this not exactly who you are? His fingertips brushed my ear, my cheek, lingering at the corner of my eye. Even in front of your sister, you stared at this crown prince with those watery eyes. deliberately tempting me, and now you cannot even bear to hear the title brother-in-law. TSK. Even when I dissolved into pitiful tears, he would only cover my eyes. His voice hoarse. It is far too late for regret. Those humiliating words rippled through my mind like pond waves, swirling until my head spun. Gasping for breath, my sister looked utterly confused. What does your highness mean? I pulled my hand free from hers, keeping my gaze lowered. Speaking hurriedly, the empress intends to issue a betrothal decree soon. Sister, you need not fret over anything. I am going to wander elsewhere for a moment. She frowned slightly. Wait, I lifted my skirts and hurried down the stone steps before she could catch my hem. I had no appetite to admire the blooming flowers or scenic views. Slumping alone in a secluded corner, I only offered half-hearted replies whenever strangers tried striking up conversation. Inside the pavilion, the empress listened as her head maid reported. The lady his highness admires is indeed present at this gathering. Only this servant cannot tell which one it is. Cannot tell. The empress found it amusing, her golden hairpins trembling with the movement of her head. He keeps his distance from all women. Simply observe who he gazes at most. Who he lingers beside, that will reveal the answer. The maid thought for a moment. He spent the longest time with the eldest young lady of the Yangxin Marquis Manor, feeding koi fish beside Tai Pond together. Yet his gaze drifts most often elsewhere. The empress leaned forward. Show me where. I lifted my head blankly, meeting the empress's gaze as it fell directly upon me, just as it had in my previous life. Beneath her benevolent warmth flickered a flash of admiration. Come here. I have questions to ask you. I stepped into the pavilion, hands folded neatly in my lap, head bowed timidly as I answered her inquiries. She first asked of my lineage. I am Lu Zhaoning, the second daughter of the Marquis of Yangxin. I see. The empress gestured for her maid to pour me tea. Have you met the crown prince before? My breath hitched subtly. We have crossed paths a handful of times, yet we are barely acquainted. Mid-conversation, blossoms rustled beside the stone path. Ronghang's long fingers brushed aside drooping branches blocking his line of sight, revealing a pair of cold, icy eyes. His glance swept lightly across my face. It is not her, he said coldly. Mother, you need not question her further. The woman I love is erudite, reserved, and modest, not someone scheming to climb the social ladder by clinging to royalty. Within a month, I will bring her before you myself to request our formal betrothal. His words cut deep, drawing countless stares my way, filling me with burning embarrassment until my knuckles whitened from clenching my hands. The empress frowned. You have only spoken to her a few times. How can you judge her character so hastily and make such unfair accusations? Rongheng fell silent for a beat, unable to explain the torment of our shared rebirth. The empress tapped her fingers against the tabletop. What has gotten into you today? Picking fights with a young lady for no reason. Her features are gentle and kind to my eye. Speak no more such harsh words from now on. Rongheng tugged the corner of his mouth, twisting the jade tassel strung around his wrist. The cord brushed against the sensitive skin on his inner wrist. As you command. It was a nervous habit he had when agitated. Once, when he had pushed me too far, I had bitten him hard enough to leave teeth marks on that very spot. He had worn the jade tassel to conceal the indentation during court audiences for years, turning the gesture into an ingrained habit. On the carriage ride home, the vehicle swayed gently. I leaned against the window, dazed, my forehead bumping against the wooden frame repeatedly. My sister stretched out to slide a soft handkerchief beneath my head. I heard the crown prince said something unpleasant to you. Her tone was gentle and soothing. Do not take it to heart. I will speak with him. He used to be so gentle. I cannot fathom why he seems to dislike you of late. Those distant days felt almost illusory. Once bold and unrestrained, I had playfully called him brother-in-law in private. Rongheng had indulged me endlessly, sneaking palace pastries for me and quietly resolving small troubles I encountered. Whenever I thanked him, he would smile faintly. You are your sister's little sister. It is only right I look out for you. No one could have predicted how cruel and twisted he would become after marrying the wrong woman. I turned my head to study my sister quietly. My voice rough after a long pause. Does your highness intend to become my brother-in-law? Wind billowed the carriage curtain. She lifted a hand to pin her flying hair back, smiling softly with her eyes lowered. He does. I squeezed my eyes shut. Sister, will you be happy? Hesitation crept into her voice, dwindling to a murmur. I have dragged my feet for a long time. Filled with fears. I worry he will take consorts and concubines in the future, that I cannot navigate all the scheming and intrigue within the Eastern Palace. I care for him deeply, so I ought to find joy being with him. She was always plagued by doubts. In truth, Rongheng had never kept concubines or mistresses. If he treated me with such resentment after our mismatched marriage, he would have cherished the woman he truly loved all the more. Still, I could offer no comforting words. I dared not speak of our past life, nor predict what twists fate might bring. My sister smoothed the furrow from my brow. There now. Why have you been so glum lately? It has been ages since you told me what weighs on your heart. Do you have someone you care for? I replied. Perhaps I do. The answer drew a laugh out of her. She covered her mouth with her sleeve, giggling for a moment. What makes you say that? Shortly after Rongheng had departed, the empress had spent quite some time consoling me. She had grown fond of me across both lifetimes. Toward the end of our talk, she had said, "It seems you and the crown prince are not destined for one another. I wonder if my nephew might be fortunate enough to win your heart." She had gestured toward the young man standing in the distance, elegant and refined as jade among trees, apart from earthly trivialities. Shui Yang, the marquis heir, back home from the palace. My sister made no attempt to meet Rongheng. After much deliberation, she refused to risk appearing forward or indiscreet by exchanging meetings in secret, choosing only to write him private letters instead. I understood her well. As the eldest legitimate daughter of the manor, bound rigidly by etiquette to set an example for the household, breaking free was no simple feat. The letters passed through my hands first. I would deliver them to Shui Yang, who would then pass them along to Rongheng. The empress had quietly matched Shui Yang and me, and I cared nothing for trivial gossip or reputation, never bothering to avoid suspicion in our interactions. Bit by bit, we grew well acquainted. Shui Yang was a young military officer. Outside the palace, he always kept a hand firmly resting on the hilt of his sword, reserved and taciturn, carrying an air of steady composure. A few years younger than Rongheng, he had not yet undergone his comingafage ceremony. Every time he came to collect letters, he brought me small gifts. Once, it was a sprig of chinaberry blossom. Misty and delicate, the flower flourished mostly south of the Yangtze, rarely seen in the capital. I thought you might like it, so I plucked it on a whim. I breathed in its fragrance and smiled up at him. I know these blossoms grow quite tall. I have to tilt my head all the way back just to see them. Shui Yang raised the back of his hand to shield his eyes, his ears flushing bright red. He was so quiet and reserved. Yet once I witnessed him confronting a bully on the city street. My sister had told me the man was a notorious wastrel who terrorized common folk and abused women. Shui Yang kicked him roughly to the ground, stared down at him coldly, sword pressed to his throat, his rebukes sharp and unsparing. I lifted the carriage curtain, watching in stunned silence. Shui Yang glanced upward, locking eyes with me in an instant. His attendant immediately knelt to greet me. "Forgive my outburst, young lady." It was this servant speaking harshly just now. The heir would never stoop to quarrel with such rabble. I leaned against the window, laughing openly. "Oh, I see. It was your sword doing the talking then. Does your sword have a name?" "It does." He polished the blade with silk cloth, its surface spotless and gleaming, reflecting his eyes. "It is named Yuning, Guardian of Peace." My cheeks burned hot. I dropped the curtain, letting my sister tease me endlessly afterward. Trapped as crown princess from an early age in my previous life, I had known nothing but resentment and tangled obsession, never experiencing such pure, gentle affection. At last I understood why my sister pined endlessly for Rongheng, why she wasted away with lovesickness. My sister and Rongheng were now set to follow their destined path. As for me, the years I had lost behind towering palace walls in my past life were finally mine to reclaim. Temple visit in the 4th month. Peach blossoms bloomed in full splendor. A soft breeze stirring the copper bells hanging from the roof eaves. My sister and I knelt on rush cushions, bowing repeatedly before the Buddha. She could not settle her mind. The prince promised to marry me. A flake of incense ash fell onto the back of her hand. Yet lately he has been acting strangely. I stood upright, placed my incense stick into the censer, brushed the ash from her skin, and went to fetch cold water for her. In what way? Their birth charts had already been matched. Everything auspicious. Only awaiting the imperial betrothal decree. Her eyelashes fluttered nervously, feeling it improper to speak of such matters before the Buddha. She took my hand and led me to a pavilion in the rear courtyard. He treats me far too well, granting every wish I have, but his kindness feels distant and overly polite. She held out her hand from her sleeve. We have not even held hands once. Unease twisted in my chest. In my former life, my reputation as crown princess had been tarnished. Once, before receiving ministers, Rongheng had toyed with me, smearing rouge across my fingertips. The officials presenting memorials grew flustered, staring only at the floor tiles in embarrassment. Though crowned princess, I had never commanded true respect. My voice turned hoarse. Perhaps His Highness respects your temperament. Afraid to grow too forward too soon. Do you think so? She smiled, cheeks pinkening. Then ought I take initiative the next time we meet? I fell silent for a moment. I cannot say privately. I did not wish for my sister to marry Rongheng. I believed she deserved someone far better. Unfortunately, her heart belonged to him. I had learned long ago love rarely followed logic. She asked me more questions about Shui Yang, and I grew talkative at last. He is wonderful. He remembers every little thing I say, even details I forget myself. During the flower festival, I casually mentioned wishing to step outside, and he simply agreed without asking when I planned to go. I slept late into the morning, only rising at noon to find he had been waiting for hours, telling my mother not to rouse me. Sometimes I doubt my own looks, but he disagrees. If I wished to make a show of myself, he would let the entire capital know that the most beautiful woman under heaven is the second young lady of the Liu household. My sister listened intently, then pulled a bitter, faint smile after a long pause. I see. This is how lovers treat one another. As we spoke, daylight faded fast. I thought we had simply stayed too long until dusk, but stepping outside the pavilion revealed heavy, dark storm clouds gathering, rain imminent. Traumatized by the events of my past mistake, I had made a habit of carrying an umbrella and watching my footing carefully. My sister and I walked a short distance down the mountainside, only to round a bend and encounter a squad of sword-wielding imperial guards. Their leader bowed to us respectfully. The crown prince has survived an assassination attempt. The assassin fled into these woods. Young Master Shui has cordoned off the area and led men in pursuit. A carriage marked with the Eastern Palace insignia stood nearby. Rongheng lifted the curtain with his fingertips, his face deathly pale. His gaze swept briefly over me before settling on my sister. Yun, he called softly, using her childhood pet name. Climb aboard to shelter from the rain. She glanced hesitantly toward me. I turned my head away. Go on. She stepped forward, and Rongheng leaned down to offer his hand to assist her. Gentle and attentive to a fault, yet she appeared uncomfortable all the same. My sister bit her lip, offering a shy smile. I stood far off under my umbrella, kicking pebbles at my feet absently. Is the assassin highly skilled? The guard started, realizing I was addressing him. Not as skilled as young Master Shui, merely cunning and elusive. My heart tightened abruptly. Is he in danger? The crown prince sustained minor injuries. Nothing life-threatening. I do not mean the prince. I enunciated clearly and sharply. Shui Yang. Is young Master Shui in danger? The rain picked up, wind shaking the tree branches into a rustling frenzy. This subordinate dare not speculate. Still, the heir is highly skilled in martial arts. He will likely come to no harm. I tightened my grip on the umbrella handle, My desire for conversation vanishing. I see. My sister lifted the carriage curtain, speaking to me from afar, her words indistinct, drawing closer. I saw she and Rongheng sat very near one another, leaning against the carriage wall on a cushion, his eyes half-lidded. He appeared drained of strength. His robe was torn at the shoulder, stained dark with blood. The metallic scent thick in the air, far worse than a superficial wound. My sister spoke gently. The rain is heavy. Will you come inside too? Rongheng's eyelashes fluttered. Yet he did not lift his head nor stop her from inviting me. I shook my head. No, thank you. I will wait out here. My sister sighed. As I stepped away, I overheard Rongheng speaking to her. Who is she waiting for? My sister laughed softly. The man she loves. She would brave wind and rain without hesitation just to catch sight of him. When Shui Yang returned with the captured assassin, he was covered head to toe in blood. I hurried forward with my umbrella, slipping on the muddy ground and stumbling straight into his chest. He steadied me. This blood is not mine. He paused. I am covered in filth. I ought to have pushed you away. I tilted my chin upward, gazing into his unusually bright eyes. Then why did you not push me? I could not bear to. His Adam's apple bobbed as he chuckled quietly. I will buy you an entire cart of new gowns to make amends. I dabbed rainwater from his face with my handkerchief. Shui Yang took the umbrella from my hand, then tucked the damp cloth into his own robes. He stood a head taller than me, holding the umbrella tilted low over us both. My business here is finished. Let me escort you home. I agreed, turning to bid my sister farewell. I saw both her and Rongheng had stepped down from the carriage, tall and slender. Rongheng wrapped a cloak around his shoulders, his face ashen, his voice frigid. You will be the one to see her home. Shui Yang confirmed it. I mentioned this to my cousin before. You once asked about the letters. Red paper notes were written to you by eldest Miss Liu, while the peach blossom slips are from Zhaoning to me. I see. Rongheng let out a low, hollow laugh. I nearly mixed them up, thinking the peach slips were also from a Yuan. Shui Yang watched him silently for a long moment. I could tell he cared little for Rongheng's inner turmoil. My elder sister has always only written on red stationery, red paper filled with small script, laying bare every secret longing of her heart. True enough. He glanced toward me, conceding the point. I suppose I have been a poor brother-in-law all along. I squeezed my eyes shut. He had tainted that once warm title, uttering it each time with indecent intimacy. Rongheng spoke again. It is impossible for you to leave now. The assassin has not yet been interrogated. How can you abandon your post? Shui Yang blinked in surprise. Interrogating prisoners is not my official duty. I shall only escort her a short way and return immediately. Rongheng's tone turned cold and unyielding, refusing to entertain excuses. You may not go. Defeated. Shui Yang handed the umbrella back to me. I will see you soon. I tilted my face up and smiled at him. As I looked away, I spotted small fresh cuts across the back of his hand. Leaning down, I blew gently over the wounds. Does it hurt? Please be more careful. His ears flushed completely red. It is nothing. Just scratches from tree branches. TSK. Rongheng frowned irritably, his mood darkening. They will scab over within the quarter hour. What is there to fuss over? I said nothing, taking my sister's arm and climbing into our manor's carriage. The Empress's birthday banquet. The Empress hosted a feast for noble ladies and young gentlewomen of rank, inviting my sister and me as well. Mother was overjoyed. Our marquis manor is set to gain both a crown princess and a marquis heir's wife. 2 major marriages settled at once. I ducked my head, overwhelmed with embarrassment, urging her not to speak further. My sister sat before her mirror applying elaborate makeup. Her features painted beautifully, yet sorrow lingered in her eyes. She squeezed the fabric on her lap, then released it, summoning the courage to speak. I no longer wish to marry the crown prince. Mother froze instantly. Why ever not? The crown prince is exceptional among men. His handsomeness unmatched across the capital. He refuses to take secondary consorts. Only meeting you in private. What more could you possibly desire? My sister drew a deep breath. Perhaps it stems from the fortune stick I drew for marriage at the temple, most inauspicious result. Mother's face darkened, declaring she put no stock in divinity. Storming off in anger and telling my sister to think carefully over her decision. My sister latched the doors shut and turned to face me. Her gaze sent a jolt of anxiety through my chest. I realize it now, she said, sorrow lacing her voice. Ronghang's heart belongs to you too. It struck me like thunder, my throat constricting tight. What would make you think that? She wiped moisture from the corner of her eye. I was blind and slow to notice before. A man who hides his emotions so well only reacts for your sake anger or joy alike. Do you recall when I brought you to meet him? He always smiled upon seeing you. A few days ago, when I said you were waiting for your beloved, his expression shifted instantly, dark and disbelieving. Everyone in the capital knows young Master Shui and the Crown Prince grew up as close as brothers. Yet he humiliated his own cousin simply because Shui Yang wished to walk you home. For months he has appeared to dislike you. Yet his eyes never leave you. He accused you of climbing for status before the empress. But before this, he would never have paid mind to which young lady conversed with her majesty. I sat dazed, staring into her melancholy eyes, a heavy weight pressing against my chest like storm clouds, the air thick and hard to breathe. I am so sorry, sister. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she smiled. I do not blame you. I only needed to say it aloud, to convince myself as well. I rested my head on her lap, my own eyes growing wet. She lifted my chin gently. Your hair has only just been styled. We must leave for the banquet shortly. Before the feast began, a palace maid summoned my sister to meet with the empress privately. I stepped through the palace gates following a servant girl. The winding corridor branched off onto a narrow, unfamiliar path. This is not the way to the inner palace. I halted in my tracks. I had trodden this path countless times in my past life, memorizing every twist and turn. The maid fell silent for a moment before murmuring timidly, "It was the Crown Prince's order." I stiffened, spinning around only to collide with a solid chest behind me. My wrist was seized in an iron grip. The sensation was hauntingly familiar. Archelaus's built from years of holding writing brushes made his palms slightly rough to the touch. He dragged me roughly into a rockery grotto, blocking all light so I could not make out his expression. Rongheng pressed my back against the stone wall, cupping the back of my head with his palm. Zhaoning. It was the first time he had spoken my given name like this across both lifetimes, the tail of his tone rising faintly, husky and ambiguous. You cannot marry him. I see clearly now. Still recovering from his assassination wound, his pale face only amplified his brooding, unregal demeanor. I never loved her. Not in this life or the last. I only mistook a kindred spirit for true love. Ignorant of my own heart, I closed my eyes, overcome with sorrow, my throat tight with emotion. What did you take my sister for? You have toyed with her affections twice over. Across 2 lifetimes. Rongheng fell wordless. I will make amends to her. He stroked my wrist slowly, pulling me tight into his embrace. I went mad the moment I saw Shui Yang hold you. What right does he have to touch you? Why do you smile for him? I struggled fiercely, my hands striking his injured shoulder. Rongheng gasped sharply, blood seeping through his torn robes, dampening the fabric. Losing my restraint, I shoved him to the ground, my voice a mix of grief and rage. I have hated you since our previous life. My sister grew so disheartened she chose to become a lay nun at the temple, vowing never to wed anyone at all. And still you tormented and degraded me endlessly. You know full well how guilty I feel toward her. I never tempted you. It was your own shameful obsession with your wife's younger sister. Rongheng leaned back against the stone, his jade wrist tassel shattered on the ground, messy black hair falling loose around his face, his eyes half closed, chest heaving from the pain of his injury, his fingers rubbing unconsciously over the old bite mark on his inner wrist. Voice barely audible. You are right. I am shameless, obsessed with my sister-in-law, haunted by dreams of you night after night, unable to let go. As Crown Prince, I projected a flawless, upright image before the court, hiding this disgraceful longing I dared not admit. I craved to possess you alone, keeping you from all others, yet lashed out cruelly to push you down, locking you away in the eastern palace out of petty malice. I am despicable and vile. He grew increasingly unhinged. I know Mother intends to issue your betrothal decree to him tonight, yet with one single word from me. Your marriage to Shui Yang will never happen. Tears welled unbidden in my eyes as I stared at him. Rong Hung, must my entire life bend to your selfish whims? You ruined me once already, though you intend to destroy me a second time. He squeezed his eyes shut, his Adam's apple bobbing repeatedly. I spoke bitterly. If you continue hounding me, I will die alongside you. I bit my lip, unwilling to engage further. Stepping around him to leave, he caught hold of my gilded silk ribbon for a heartbeat before letting it slip free. Like a fish slipping briefly through his fingers, Rong Hung tilted his face upward, sunlight washing over his ashen features, devoid of color. You look beautiful in this gown today. I lowered my gaze. It was a gift from Shui Yang. Shortly afterward, my sister took her seat beside me for the banquet. She let out a long breath. Finally at peace, the maid led me on a long walk. I realized I could never endure being trapped behind these towering palace walls for the rest of my days. It is almost a blessing that he no longer loves me. I confessed everything to the empress. The crown prince and I once had feelings. Yet nothing remains between us now. I blinked in surprise, patting the back of her hand. That is for the best. Seated at the head table, the empress wore a complicated expression. She glanced between my sister and me, said nothing at last, lifting her wine cup to drain it in one gulp. 3 joys were meant to come to pass tonight, yet only 2 remain. Rong Hung was present at the feast, his face impassive. Allow me to toast the first joy first. I am feeling unwell, so I shall drink tea in place of wine. May Mother live long and prosper. The empress clinked cups with him. Next to raise a glass was Shui Yang. My sister and I bowed respectfully, offering our own well wishes. After rounds of drinking, the empress summoned an imperial edict. Now for our second joy. She lifted her gaze toward us. Zhaoning, eyeing, Shui Yang and I rose from our seats, kneeling side by side, my heart pounding rapidly in my chest. Rong Hung watched rigidly, squeezing his wine goblet so hard his knuckles whitened. I reached up and took the imperial betrothal edict into my hands. Lamplight flooded the hall around us, yet the surrounding noise seemed to fade to silence. Rong Hung ordered the palace servants flatly, "Refill my wine." The empress frowned. "Have you not yet recovered from your injuries?" Rong Hung closed his eyes, his voice hoarse and cold as freezing spring water. "I had no wish to drink, yet I fear I shall not survive this night sober." After the palace banquet, true to his word, Rong Hung showered my sister with precious jewels, fertile farmland, and gold enough to guarantee her financial security for the rest of her life. His chief aide also passed along a message. His Highness says from this day onward, eldest Miss Liu shall be treated as his sworn sister. If she chooses to marry, the crown prince will provide a lavish dowry. If she wishes to remain unwed and free, your manor must not pressure her into marriage. Mother laughed awkwardly. Naturally. The aide hesitated briefly. How fares the second young lady lately? Mother replied. She awaits her wedding. All is well. Nothing could be further from the truth. Etiquette dictated betrothed couples ought not meet before their wedding. Yet I cared little for rigid social rules. With my sister covering for me, I came and went freely to see Shui Yang whenever I pleased. We admired blossoms in spring, rowed boats across lakes in summer, drifting over shimmering water. Shui Yang laughed thinking back to our first meeting. I was never meant to attend that flower viewing banquet. My cousin told me all the most accomplished young ladies of the capital would be present, saying I had reached an age suitable for matchmaking. I refused outright at first. Then he begged me for a favor, wished to avoid my aunt meddling in his love life, and needed me to act as his chaperone once. I agreed. And then I saw you. Truly, the finest woman in the capital was there all along. A breeze stirred the lotus flowers, bowing their blooms. My cheeks burned warm, and I shot him a playful huff. Smooth words and empty flattery. Shui Yang smiled gently. My apologies. Then, Rongheng threw himself into relief work outside the capital for months, handling every detail of disaster aid personally. The whole court praised their compassionate crown prince, who wasted away from overwork. Before our wedding, I caught a distant glimpse of him at a royal hunt. He had grown noticeably gaunt, his features brooding, rarely smiling, his emotions even more inscrutable than before. Sharp and imposing on the hunting field, he loosed 3 arrows in rapid succession. Toward the end of the hunt, I rested inside a military tent when a eunuch stepped inside carrying 2 white fox pelts. Speaking deferentially, His Highness says the second young lady tends to feel cold in winter. These can be made into a warm fur cloak. I made no move to accept them. Please convey my gratitude to His Highness, and take these back. The eunuch sighed and stepped outside, and I heard a familiar voice just beyond the tent flap. If she does not want them, take them away. Shui Yang appeared to cross paths with him, speaking blunt, unvarnished sarcasm. It is not the white foxes she rejects, it is you. Shui Yang. Rongheng's tone turned icy. If I had not enlisted your help that day, do you think you would ever have crossed paths with her? Shui Yang remained calm. If you had not been gravely wounded then, I might well have struck you myself. Everyone knows you are mature and reserved, never revealing your feelings easily. Is your longing for my fiancé so difficult to conceal? Rongheng ground his teeth, seething with suppressed rage. Your fiancé. I stepped aside once to let you have her. Footsteps retreated into the distance. Shui Yang's clear voice rang out. Then I shall not let you have her back today. Restless, I hurried outside. Shui Yang sat mounted on his horse, bow and quiver slung over his back, turning to grin at me. Wait 1 hour for me. My anxiety eased at once. I will. By hunt's end, piles of game lay heaped up, yet both men looked disheveled, bearing fresh injuries. The empress frowned and pressed for answers. Rongheng claimed, I took a fall. Shui Yang wiped a streak of blood from his eyebrow with his knuckle. A low-hanging branch scratched me. Nothing more. I hunted 2 more deer than him. He told me that later, sitting in the tent, chin tilted up, eyes bright as he sought my praise. There is no need to compete with him. I carefully dressed his wounds, meeting his gaze earnestly. I hate seeing you hurt. Shui Yang froze for a heartbeat, then bowed his head meekly like a docile young hound, murmuring, I understand now. The sun sank toward the horizon, stretching a lone, gaunt shadow far across the ground, resembling a stray dog with nowhere to belong. My wedding to Shui Yang fell on a crisp, clear autumn day, selected by the imperial astronomer as the most auspicious date of the year. My sister walked beside my bridal procession, tears streaming down her face just as they had in my past life. I squeezed her hand, telling her not to grieve. In this lifetime, no palace walls would separate us. We could visit one another whenever we wished. The emperor and empress attended our ceremony in person. Though Rongheng was absent, no one could track him down anywhere in the capital. His whereabouts unknown. 3 years Shui Yang senior. His own marriage prospects were continually delayed until the empress finally sighed and turned her attention to arranging a match for the second prince instead. None of it concerned me any longer. When I returned to my natal home for the customary post-wedding visit, I found my sister packing luggage. After long deliberation, she had resolved never to marry, nor enter a religious retreat, instead setting off to wander mountains and rivers across the realm. I nodded in understanding. I will always stand behind you. My sister smiled, brighter and softer than she had been in years, luminous as a full moon unobscured by thin clouds. May the years stretch long ahead, like blossoms and leaves, year after year, side by side, basking forever in spring breeze.